A giant total fraud was perpetrated on this country yesterday. The Supreme Court, as an institution, is forever tarnished. There are now no limits anywhere on the size, scope, the growth of government. We were the victims of a purposeful, intentional fraud yesterday. There is no way were anybody in Washington concerned about the Constitution. There is no way Obamacare gets anywhere close to being law in this country. There is no way it even approaches constitutionality. And the Chief Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court knew that. Felt it was his duty, however, to save the legislation. I don't even care about motivation. I don't care if it's because he wants the New York Times and Washington Post loving him. I don't care if it's because he wants to be the next John Marshall. I don't care. All I know is that we were defrauded in front of our eyes, wide open. We were taunted, defrauded, mocked. This is theft. Theft of liberty and freedom right in front of our eyes. Okay, so the Commerce Clause has been limited. So now we get to pay a tax for something we don't do. But it's worse than that. It really is akin to going into a 7-Eleven and saying to the clerk, no, I really don't want to buy any gum. Well, okay, tax on that's $2.35. That's what's happened here. And I see all these people running around now thinking they've got free health care. And for the next year and a half, that's what it's going to look like. Michelle Obama is out. Guess what? Contraception is now free. She got a list of all the things that are free. AP has a list of all the things that are free for everybody. And what happened here basically is that Justice Roberts stretched the limits to avoid being accused of activism. I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. He wanted to avoid being accused of activism. Activism in this case would have been finding the law as it is unconstitutional. So he succumbed to fear that doing that, upholding the Constitution, would have resulted in him being accused of activism. So what he did, he stretched the limits to avoid being accused of activism. In the process, he became more activist than a justice in recent memory. The Congress wants this law. The president wants this law. It's entirely unconstitutional. And they all knew this. Other than the four liberals, they all knew the whole thing was unconstitutional, and Justice Roberts decided to rewrite it. He rewrote the legislation in a way that Congress never intended it. It would be like a judge making up for an incompetent lawyer in court and finding somebody who's guilty totally innocent just because the judge wanted to appear magnanimous. We can't count on the Supreme Court to uphold the Constitution, and that's why I'm sick. If we can't count on the Constitution being upheld in the Supreme Court, and furthermore, if the Supreme Court is going to take over the duties of the legislative branch and write legislation in order to save incompetent, unconstitutional, faulty work, then we've got pure fraud. We were the victims of a fraud. It is entirely the job of the United States Supreme Court to determine whether or not a piece of legislation is constitutional. They have decided 169 times that pieces of legislation were unconstitutional. Or we were asking for the Constitution to be upheld. We were asking for the Constitution to be defended. What defense do we have? We're now supposed to go back, throw a bunch of Democrats out of office, hope and pray the Republicans we put into office then have the guts to do the right thing. And if they do, and the whole thing ends up back at the Supreme Court someday, we know all bets are off because nothing matters anymore. There is no standard. There is no firewall. There's no backstop. There is no alarm. There is no 911. There's nowhere to go.